A mirror now expose that will leave you shocked. Food items distributed by Karnataka government at Anganwadi centers in Bengaluru were found to have worms in them. After a complaint by a parent, Mirana's Neha Hebbale did a reality check, visiting 8 Anganwadi centers in the city, and what she found was shocking.
Worms, insects and ants were found in food packets supplied to Anganwadi centers in Bengaluru. What's even worse is that almost 90% of the food items in these centers had passed its consumption date. Anganwadis are state-run centers meant for children less than 5 years of age, and that is the status of food items that are being served to these children.
ಮಾತ್ರ ನಾವು ಬಂದು ಊಟ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತೀವಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಅವರು ಊಟ ಮಾಡಿ ಇಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ಮಧ್ಯಾಹ್ನ ಹೊತ್ತು ನಾವು ಕೆಲಸಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಬರ್ತೀವಲ್ವಾ, ಬಂದು ನೋಡಿ ಊಟ ಮಾಡಿಸಿ ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ನಾವು ಇವಾಗ ನೀವು ತೋರಿಸಿದ ಮೇಲೆ ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ತಿರೋದಷ್ಟೇ. ಆದರೆ ಫುಡ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕೊಡ್ತಿರ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ, ನಾವು ತಿಂಗಳು ಫುಡ್ ತೊಗೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತಿರ್ತೀವಿ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗೇ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ತಿಂಗಳು ಬಂದಿದೆ ಅವ್ರು ಕೊಡೋದು ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ನಾವು ಮನೆಗೆಲ್ಲ ತೊಗೊಂಡು
ಇಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್, ಒಂದೊಂದ್ಸಲ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಮೇಡಮ್.
ಈಗ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬಾ ಕಡಲೆಕಾಯಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ
ಅದು ಮೇಡಮ್ ಅದು
ಆಗಿರೋ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲಾನು ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಇಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ
ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೈರ್ಡ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಅದು ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಸೈನ್ ತಗೊಂಡು ನಾವು ಅದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೈರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಮೇಡಮ್. ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಬರಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲ ನಾವೇ ಹೋಗಿ ಕನ್ಸಲ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಸೈನ್ ತಗೊಂಡು ಅದು ರಿಮೂವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಮೇಡಮ್.
ಅದು ಯಾವಾಗ
ಅದು ಇವಾಗ ನಾಳೆ ನಾಡ್ದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಮೇಡಮ್. ಇವತ್ತು ಇಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್, ಅಕ್ಟೋಬರ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲ, ನಾಳೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಹತ್ರ ಕನ್ಸಲ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ, ಅವ್ರ ಹತ್ರ ನೋಡಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ಸಲ್ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತಾರೆ.
ಮಗುಗೆ ಅವತ್ತೊಂದಿನ ತಿನ್ನಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಗೊತ್ತಾಗದಲ್ಲೇ 3 ದಿನ ಆಸ್ಪತ್ರೆ ಕರ್ಕೊಂಡೋಗಿ ಓಡಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಅದು ತಿನ್ನಿಸಿದ್ರು ಮಗು ತುಂಬ ವಾಮಿಂಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಬೇದಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಸುಸ್ತಾಗಿ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಮಗು ತುಂಬಾ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇದೆ. ಒಂಚೂರು ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕು ಬರೀ ಹುಳಗಳೇ ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾವೆ. ಈ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಮಾತ್ರ ತುಂಬಾ ಅಸ್ವಸ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾವೆ. ತುಂಬಾ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇದೆ. ಅದೇನು ಫುಡ್ಗಳು ಏನು ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೋ ಇಲ್ಲೋ ಒಂದು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ.
Okay, Neha Hebbale joining us with more information on this. Neha, so you did a ground check, and this comes right after the coverage we did on Akshay Patra, where the issue was undernourishment, but this is even worse. Now we are looking at a hygiene issue. Some Anganwadi teachers were trying to be dismissive about it, but what did you find out when you took stock of the situation, Neha?
Well, Afrida, Avni, in fact, it was most disgusting when we visited as many as, of course, about 8 Anganwadi centers in random areas and random pockets of the city. And what we found was so appalling: insects. Most of these packets of course, the food items have been infested with worms of some sort or the other. Now, when we questioned the teachers over there at the Anganwadi center about this, they very casually, like you said, dismissed the entire issue and just said that this was the condition that the food items were given to them in, and this is how it is received, of course, this is how it was given to them from the godown directly. So it is absolutely, of course, appalling, and the fact still remains that these worms can be cleaned. But the fact is, why is it that these government schools, of course, these Anganwadi centers have to sort of, go ahead every single day and clean these worms? Well, that is what, of course, we are really questioning. And it's not just the rice or, of course, the pulses. We're talking about worms in the huge rice godowns, the huge rice sacks and the gunny bags. We're talking about packed pulses that are being given to these Anganwadi centers. We're talking about peanuts that have passed their expiry date. So all of these items, in fact, other pulses also, even the green gram, the horse gram, all of these pulses infested with these tiny worms, and all of this is ultimately being given to the little children. We're talking about children below the ages of 5 that are coming down to these Anganwadi centers. That's one. The second thing is that these food items are also now, of course, distributed to many homes, many families below the poverty line also receive these food items, and it's mainly the pregnant women that consume these. So what we're really questioning is, why is it that these worms are even allowed to sort of enter these packets in the first place? And what's even more shocking is that even for the packets that are still, of course, well within the expiry or the consumption date, these packets are packed in the month of June. So we've seen packets that are packed in the month of June this month, and they too are infested with worms. We're talking about huge gunny bags of wheat, of rice that are delivered, fresh stock of this month, that are infested with worms. Now, apart from this, even the old stock also, of course, may not have been infested with worms, but the fact remains that it is past its expiry date, that it is still being used for the cooking for these little children. So what we really have to ask is there a fault on, of course, the part of these Anganwadi centers in maintaining the stock? That's one. And secondly, also now there is a fault on the part of the government itself for ensuring such low quality food is supplied to these Anganwadi centers. We also, of course, visited a couple of godowns as well, where we found the absolute same results. Really shocking that worms are entering these Anganwadi centers, considering that they've been delivered from the godowns itself with worms. So of course, a lot of parents have been complaining about this issue in the past as well, but clearly it seems like no sort of action has been taken. Children are falling sick on a daily basis.
Absolutely, Neha. In fact, stay with us. We've got joining us on the phone line Brinda Arige and Vivek Reddy of the BJP as well. Brinda Arige, let me quickly come to you first for your first reaction before going across to Mr. Reddy. This is absolutely horrifying that children are being given this kind of food, this kind of completely infested with worms.
You're right. This is horrifying, and it is something that the government and all its departments need to look at immediately, because we are seeing that children are falling ill. But more than that, when the government has opened the Anganwadi, saying that malnutrition should be arrested, health of the child should be ensured, supplying this kind of food, the responsibility also falls on the Food and Civil Supplies Department. Are they supplying old food grains and putting a banner, putting a sticker of saying that it is new, like June 2019, and hence it is going to be used in June 2019? Because we also now need to question the monitoring. Who is monitoring? Who is packing the food? When they are packing the food? Who is monitoring? Who inspects this food? Because we are not holding the functionaries responsible. The government is responsible, but the functionary is also responsible. How do you pull them up? Because the life, the health, and the future of our children is at stake. And this means you cannot blame anybody else except the government and its functionaries.
Right, absolutely. Responsibility must be fixed. Vivek Reddy of the BJP, how do we do that? And the last time I spoke to you, we were talking about undernourishment. Here the issue is even worse. Now we are talking about hygiene, unhygienic food, worm-infested food, food that has passed its expiry date are being served in state-run centers. How do we address this problem, Mr. Reddy?
I think, first of all, it's the most condemnable thing that has happened. I think we cannot accept this at any cost. But the Food and Civil Supplies Department must be asked to be accountable. I wonder why poor children coming from rural backgrounds and who work and who are under the care of Anganwadi, I don't know why they are subject to such treatment by giving them rotten food grains and food grains that is absolutely unhygienic. The Food and Civil Supplies Minister must be made to answer. I think that is where the accountability rests, and the Chief Secretary of the State and the Chief Minister. This issue has to be taken up by them on a war footing. And it is shocking, merely because we find that our poor are forced to consume this. It's not exemptable, or, it's not something which can be taken casually. This is the most serious thing. They are helpless victims to this sort of a farce. I think immediately, the Food and Civil Supplies Minister must be made to answer this. That is why we will also take it up. The BJP will also take it up with the ministry and raise a hue and cry about it. Otherwise, this is not going to stop. I think we need to ask them to be accountable. That's where it rests.
Yes, absolutely, Mr. Reddy. In fact, I'm going to quickly go back to my colleague Neha, who's still with us. Neha, very quickly, has there been any sort of an official response to this? Those who are in charge of ensuring the food is distributed to these Anganwadis, has there been any kind of an official response?
Well, absolutely, of course, we have looked at all aspects of the story, and also now we have, when we did go down to the godowns and we noticed that the food was not really maintained in a very hygienic manner, that there were worms in the huge gunny bags, which are later, of course, packed and sent down to these centers. There were worms infested in that as well. We asked the officials over there, we caught hold of the manager and even asked why it was not maintained in a hygienic manner. And all they've said is that there is only so much that they can do from their end in ensuring the cleaning part, and that it is when when from the central godown, from the Food Corporation of India godown, that the food is sent to them, that it's in an even worse condition. So what really, of course, is happening over here is nothing but dirty politics that's coming to play over here. While the centre is going to blame the state would like to blame the centre. So what really we need over here is an intervention where, of course, both of them really sit down and get to the root of the problem.
On that point, because we have Vivek Reddy, let's bring in Mr. Reddy to answer that point. Mr. Reddy, you heard our reporter saying this is food coming in from the Food Corporation of India. It's a central unit. So clearly this blame game and shifting responsibility from the centre to the state will not do, sir. Clearly this is not a problem specific to Karnataka or a non-BJP ruled state, Mr. Reddy.
Well, I think the state must have safeguards. The state government must refuse to take the food grains. I don't know why the state government has to take it. After having taken it, they cannot blame the central government for it. First of all, when these food grains are stored in the state godowns, I think the state government is responsible for it. The manner in which procurement is made is lost sight of. It is not the Food Corporation of India that gives it. The state government machinery procures it from the farmers in Karnataka, and they are stocked in the state godowns or in private godowns adopted by the state. And therefore, the state is responsible. They may be using the money of the centre to enlist the procurement. But that does not mean that this is the stock that was given by the Food Corporation of India. This is where the state government is deceptively trying to pass the buck. It cannot be done. Where in most of the cases, it is the central funding that is used by the state procurement agencies to procure from the farmers. It is stored in state enlisted godowns, and it is supplied to the centers, Anganwadi centers. So it is the state government that is responsible. I think the real worms are in the Food and Corporation Department. It is these worms that have to be weeded out. These officers that have to be weeded out. Food and Civil Supplies Department of the state of Karnataka. Something has to be done, and it has to be raised before the minister. Otherwise, this is going to continue. And this blame game is also a big farce by trying to put the blame on the centre and escape from it. They must be accountable for it.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, Brinda Adike, just, taking that point forward, every time there is any real issue that comes up that needs attention, that is brought to light, the first thing that happens is political blame games, and the real crux of the matter sort of gets lost in their entire politicization.
You're absolutely right, and that is exactly that should not be done. And like Vivek just now mentioned, it is the funds that come from the state government, but the actual procurement, the actual action of getting the grains from people, from farmers, and storing it remains with the state and all its functionaries. So how is it that they have not been able to ensure that the grains that they buy or they procure from whoever is clean, kept in a safe place? How old is it? Who is testing all these things? Now, this is not being done in a serious manner because food is being given to poor children. Anganwadis are the first place all the children go to, especially in the villages and in the slums in the cities of Karnataka, which also now shows that are you serious about children, especially those coming from the backward socio-economic strata of our society? And if you are not serious about it, what are we talking about when we say that we want to keep our children safe?
Right.